Annihilape, the new evolution of Primeape, introduced in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, is completely terrifying, and it's all because of its new move, Rage Fist. Rage Fist turns Annihilape from a decent Pokemon to an elite one in competitive singles Pokemon. In fact, Annihilape is currently on the radar, which means it's very strong and could get banned in the future, but is not currently considered overpowered. Rage Fist is a new physical ghost move and is exclusive to Primeape and Annihilape. It starts off innocently enough at a modest 50 base power. However, it increases in power by 50 every time the Pokemon gets hit, maxing out at 300 base power. After getting hit just 2 times, Annihilape's Rage Fist already becomes 150 base power and it goes further from there. This move is innately powerful on any Pokemon. There's also one more hidden mechanic to it that's not immediately obvious. Even when you switch out, it doesn't reset the Rage Fist power-up. So if you get hit a lot in the early game, you switch out, come back later, and you still retain the Rage Fist boost. In the context of competitive singles Pokemon, where games are generally longer, Annihilape is much stronger because of its ability to accumulate Rage Fist boosts. This can be contrasted to doubles like the official VGC format. There, Rage Fist is much more balanced because you can be double targeted. You would probably faint while getting hit twice per turn. Generally speaking, it's much harder for a Pokemon to take over a game when it only accounts for 25% of the field compared to 50%. Because games are also shorter in VGC, long-term strategies about starting Annihilape off and then coming back later are generally less effective too. It's a much more balanced situation in doubles from a risk-reward perspective. In doubles, you're inherently very unlikely to reach a large Rage Fist base power, unless of course you use strategies dedicated to causing it, but that's a video for another day. Annihilape has a very respectable statistical foundation. Base 535 is about what you would expect from a starter Pokemon, but is lower than Paradox Pokemon or pseudo-legendary Pokemon. Ghost plus Fighting is an inherently good typing. Ghost-type Pokemon can struggle versus normal and Dark-type Pokemon, but Fighting can cover that. Similarly, Fighting can be weak to Psychic, but Ghost would hit Psychic super effectively. All in all, Annihilape has a decent but not overpowered starting point even before talking about Rage Fist. It's solidly an average to above average Pokemon on its own. But of course, Annihilape is not on its own and it does have Rage Fist. The first main moveset is a Taunt bulk-up moveset where everything synergizes perfectly. Drain Punch and Rage Fist form a powerful type combination where Rage Fist is the star of the show and Drain Punch helps with longevity. Drain Punch keeps restoring your health so that you can keep taking more hits to boost up your Rage Fist even more. Bulk Up is a generally good setup move, and besides the obvious benefit you get from increasing attack, increasing defense is also useful to make Annihilape more tanky and tough to KO. Again, if you're tough to KO, then you can tank more hits and you can increase your Rage Fist power, all while keeping yourself healthy with Drain Punch. Taunt is the final icing on the cake. Taunt prevents defensive Pokemon from using moves like Toxic. Rage Fist doesn't boost from indirect forms of damage like Burn or Poison, so it's important that you stop status conditions. If you can't stop status conditions, then your opponent can just poison you and then switch around to avoid attacking you. Also, more immediately, Taunt means that you force the opponent to attack you and boost your Rage Fist even further. I'm talking about Rage Fist in every sentence because that's how important the move is. Finally, Annihilape also uses a specially defensive EV spread to help versus special attackers, which is the main weakness. You would invest EVs in speed to outspeed whatever benchmark you want, like Kingambit, and then you would put the rest in special defense. You get power and defense from Bulk Up and Rage Fist, so you can afford to EV in different stats. Honestly, you may want to bump up the speed EVs even more, purely for other Annihilape, so that you outspeed them in the mirror matchup. Taunt Bulk Up Annihilape annihilates the competition by creating a situation where you have to attack it, and then it punishes you for doing that. The second main moveset is a similar idea, but with Rest and a Chesto Berry instead of Taunt. This would give you some flexibility to use Annihilape in the early game to tank weak attacks to boost Rage Fist, because you know that in the late game you can heal all of the damage off. The obvious disadvantage is that you don't have Taunt anymore to stop status moves, and you can't stop a move like Roar. Whirlwind Ting Lu has become increasingly popular to stop setup Pokemon, and Rest would not be able to stop that move. Also, after you use the Chesto Berry, you have to be very careful if you use Rest again, because if you're asleep for 2 turns, you can become a liability. There are also other movesets too, like Choice Band or Choice Scarf. Choice Scarf movesets are mainly about taking hits early game to boost Rage Fist, then unleashing a Choice Scarf Rage Fist late game to clean up a team. Alternatively, you could use Choice Scarf Annihilape with max HP EVs and Final Gambit. Final Gambit, off a base 110 HP stat, means you have an almost guaranteed one-hit KO nuke to throw off once per game. These Choice Scarf movesets are overall less consistent than the bulk up movesets, but watching something fade to Final Gambit is admittedly fun. Very uncommonly, you could use Stealth Rock Annihilape too. Annihilape's Ghost typing means it can block Rapid Spin, and its ability Defiant would punish Defog because Defog lowers evasion. It's an okay Stealth Rock option with Final Gambit to knock itself out too. The main issue here is simply opportunity cost. Using Stealth Rock Annihilape means you're not using Bulk Up Annihilape. That's pretty much the main weakness of the moveset. But you may have noticed that Annihilape, even with special defense EVs, is pretty weak to fast, super effective special attacking Pokemon. Choice Scarf Golden Go, Dragapult, and Iron Valiant can all outspeed and KO Annihilape. But here is Annihilape's final trump card, Terrestrialization. You would think that a powerful attacker like Annihilape would use Terrestrialization offensively, but it's a rare Pokemon that uses its Terrestrialization purely defensively. When faced with a super effective special attacker, Annihilape terrestrializes into an unrelated defensive type to take on the attacks. For example, Terra Water is a common idea to avoid super effective hits while also taking on Overheat Chi-Yu, a powerful special attacker. Terra Fairy is another option because Fairy is generally a good defensive typing, just like Water. Terra Fairy wouldn't help out versus Chi-Yu, but it would block Garchomp from using Dragon Tail to force you to switch. Annihilape can taunt moves like Roar or Whirlwind, so Dragon Tail Pokemon are what you would have to worry about next. Defensive Terrestrialization strategies open up a ton of options for Annihilape and make it difficult to KO. Even if you go to the right Pokemon, whatever that means, Annihilape can terrestrialize and turn the tables. Most strategies to beat Annihilape revolve around being careful around Rage Fist. If you can find strategies to avoid damaging Annihilape, then its Rage Fist would stay at 50 base power and it wouldn't be a threat. Bombard it with attacks before it can take you out, or maneuver to situations where you can one-hit KO Annihilape, that is the general idea. Stall teams have somewhat adapted to Annihilape by using Will-O-Wisp Talonflame. Talonflame is one of the few Pokemon that can outspeed Annihilape's taunt, take it on with its typing, while also having a good status move. In fact, without Talonflame, most stall teams crumble to Annihilape. Most stall teams use unaware Pokemon to beat setup Pokemon. In fact, Generation 9 added 3 new unaware Pokemon, Skeledirge, Dondozo, and Clodsire, to make the strategy really effective. Furthermore, these unaware Pokemon can terrestrialize to fix their type weakness. For example, in Generation 8 and before, Quagsire was an unaware Pokemon used on stall. As a result, setup sweepers that were Grass-type Pokemon too, like Swords Dance Kartana, were really valuable. Now, you can't rely purely on typing to beat Unaware. Unaware ignores stat changes, but it doesn't ignore base power changes. Stall teams don't have strong attackers, and Annihilape can force stall teams to attack it with Taunt. It's the ultimate stall killer, as eventually Annihilape gets its Rage Fist boosted to the maximum and can brute force through unaware Pokemon. And that is basically why Annihilape is an elite Pokemon in competitive singles Pokemon. Rage Fist is just a really good move. What Pokemon do you want me to cover next? Let me know down in the comments below.